When someone hurts you knowingly, it leaves a scar that is different from accidental pain. Accidental pain can be forgiven more easily because there is no intention behind it. But when someone deliberately chooses words, actions, or neglect that cause you to suffer, it touches a part of you that feels violated, unprotected, and misunderstood. The sting comes not just from the act itself, but from the awareness that they understood the consequences of their behavior and chose to proceed anyway. That awareness has a way of echoing in your mind, replaying every detail, every slight, every unkind word, every moment of indifference until you start questioning your worth. You wonder why someone would inflict pain on a person they supposedly care about, and that doubt gnaws at your confidence. Yet, within this pain lies a hidden truth, a lesson that carries the power to transform your life if you allow it to. The first thing to understand is that their actions are a reflection of them, not of you. When someone hurts you knowingly, it is not a statement about your value. It is a statement about their own limitations, their lack of empathy, their inability to process emotions in a healthy way. They might crave control, validation, or superiority, and they might see your sensitivity, kindness, or vulnerability as an opportunity to manipulate, dominate, or test boundaries. The realization of this is both painful and liberating. Painful because it confirms that the actions were intentional. Liberating because it allows you to stop blaming yourself. You did not create their behavior. You did not deserve it. And the fact that they chose to act in a certain way is entirely on them. Knowing that someone was conscious of the hurt they caused also teaches a critical lesson about awareness and accountability. Some people will harm you and then deny, minimize, or justify their actions. They will attempt to make you question your perception, gaslighting you into believing that you are overly sensitive or imagining things. This is where conscious harm intersects with emotional manipulation. When you recognize that the person knew what they were doing, it becomes clear that their behavior was strategic. It was intentional. It was a choice. And understanding this is crucial because it shifts your perspective from confusion to clarity. You begin to see patterns instead of random events, motives instead of coincidences, and it allows you to stop internalizing blame. It is also essential to understand that the universe has a way of balancing these moments. Karma, consequences, and natural law operate in ways that are often subtle, invisible, but undeniably precise. When someone hurts another person deliberately, the energy they send out is not lost. It reverberates through their own life. Even if it does not immediately appear, these actions create patterns that will return in some form, whether as lost trust, broken relationships, failed connections, or internal dissatisfaction. This is not about revenge or wishing harm. It is about understanding that every intentional act of hurt carries with it a ripple effect. The universe does not need your participation to correct imbalance. It simply waits for those actions to manifest consequences naturally. While the person who hurt you may appear unaffected at the moment, what you must focus on is your own journey. Your healing is where your power lies. When you recognize that they were conscious of their hurtful behavior, you gain the opportunity to reclaim control over your own life. You no longer need validation from someone who knowingly caused you pain. You no longer need to explain, justify, or plead for recognition. This awareness gives you the strength to set boundaries, to walk away from toxicity, and to prioritize your well-being. Every moment you reclaim for yourself is a step toward restoring balance and integrity in your own life. It is also important to note that being hurt intentionally teaches emotional discernment. You learn to read intentions, to notice patterns, and to protect yourself from repeated harm. You become more attuned to subtle cues, to actions that contradict words, and to inconsistencies in behavior. This is a skill that empowers you not only in relationships but in life as a whole. By understanding the difference between accidental pain and deliberate harm, you develop resilience. You learn that your sensitivity is not a weakness, but a compass that guides you toward people who honor and respect your emotional landscape. Finally, knowing that someone hurt you knowingly creates an opportunity for profound personal transformation. Instead of remaining trapped in anger or resentment, you can channel that energy into self-growth. You can invest in your own values, your own happiness, and your own boundaries. You realize that their choice to hurt you does not define you, but it defines the kind of life you will no longer accept. The pain becomes a teacher, the awareness becomes clarity, and the consequences of their actions become a mirror reflecting what you will not tolerate in the future. Ultimately, understanding that someone knew they were hurting you allows you to reclaim your power, establish emotional independence, and cultivate a life aligned with respect, integrity, and self-worth. You learn that intentional harm is not just a wound to endure, but a signal to grow, protect yourself, and embrace your own path with clarity, strength, and unwavering confidence. You stop seeking approval from those who would knowingly diminish you, and instead you begin to attract people who reflect the love, respect, and care that you inherently deserve. In this awareness, you find liberation, resilience, and the quiet, unshakable truth that your value was never in question, only their ability to recognize it. Karma often works through your healing, not their suffering. This is a truth that many people struggle to accept, because when someone has intentionally hurt us, our first instinct is often to imagine the balance of justice swinging in the form of their misfortune. We picture them facing consequences, feeling regret, or experiencing the pain they caused. Yet, the most profound and lasting effects of karma do not manifest in their discomfort. Instead, they emerge in your transformation, in the clarity and strength you develop as you recover from what they tried to inflict upon you. Healing is the invisible, powerful force that restores equilibrium in a way that punishment never could. It is subtle, gradual, and infinitely more potent because it reclaims your power and rewrites the story from your perspective rather than theirs. When someone has been cruel or dismissive knowingly, it leaves a wound that is both emotional and psychological. You may feel betrayed, humiliated, or unworthy. Those feelings are real and they demand acknowledgement, but they are also the starting point for your growth. Healing requires that you confront the hurt directly, that you acknowledge the reality of what happened, and that you allow yourself to feel fully without judgment. It is in facing the pain that you begin to release its hold over you. Every tear you shed, every moment of introspection, every attempt to make sense of their behavior is a step toward reclaiming your inner power. In this process, karma begins to work not by inflicting suffering on the other person, but by allowing your life to shift in alignment with truth, integrity, and self-respect. Healing is transformative because it changes the way you relate to the world and to relationships. When you recognize that your growth is the true work of karma, you start to see the value in letting go of resentment. Anger and bitterness, though understandable, often tether you to the very pain you want to move beyond. They keep you engaged in a story where the perpetrator maintains significance, where their actions continue to control your emotional state. When you shift your focus to healing, you remove their power. You no longer depend on them to experience closure, validation, or justice. Instead, you cultivate peace within yourself, and in doing so, you allow karma to complete its work naturally through your evolution rather than through their misfortune. Another critical aspect of karma working through your healing is the awareness it brings. Through recovery, you begin to understand patterns, both in the people you encounter and in your own responses to them. You learn to recognize when someone's intentions are misaligned with their words. You learn to spot behaviors that once left you confused or hurt, and you become less susceptible to being manipulated or mistreated in the future. This awareness is invaluable because it not only protects you from future harm, but it also helps you make conscious choices about who you allow into your life. When healing is the conduit for karma, it equips you with the wisdom to prioritize genuine connections over toxic ones, and it teaches you that the universe balances itself through the clarity and discernment you cultivate. Healing also has the power to rebuild your self-worth. When someone intentionally hurts you, it can shake your confidence and make you question your value. But through the process of recovery, you reaffirm your worth with every boundary you establish, every instance of self-compassion, and every moment you choose integrity over reaction. You realize that your value is inherent, not dependent on the recognition or approval of someone who acted recklessly or selfishly. This realization is a cornerstone of karma because it demonstrates that the universe restores balance not by punishing the guilty, but by elevating the innocent. Your personal growth becomes the mirror of cosmic justice, a testament to the fact that consequences are not always external. They often exist in the way the world reshapes itself around those who rise from pain stronger, wiser, and more self-assured. Furthermore, healing allows you to reclaim joy and purpose. The energy that was once consumed by anger, confusion, or despair begins to be redirected toward constructive, life-affirming endeavors. You invest in your passions, in relationships that honor you, and in personal goals that reflect your true potential. Karma works quietly in the background, realigning circumstances, opportunities, and relationships to reflect the new, empowered version of yourself. The person who caused you pain may continue their life unaware of the change, yet your own life shifts profoundly. Healing transforms energy, and transformed energy naturally attracts balance, abundance, and fulfillment. It is also important to note that healing is an ongoing process. It is not a linear path, nor is it completed simply by walking away from the person who hurt you. True healing involves revisiting the pain, understanding the lessons embedded within it, and integrating those lessons into the fabric of your life. Each stage of healing reinforces your emotional resilience, sharpens your discernment, and strengthens your boundaries. As you heal, you also cultivate empathy for yourself and, paradoxically, for the human imperfection of others. This is how karma works most elegantly. It does not punish, it educates, elevates, and empowers. Ultimately, when karma operates through your healing rather than their suffering, it restores balance in the most profound sense. You become the living proof of resilience, clarity, and empowerment. You no longer need to watch them stumble to believe justice exists. Your growth, your peace, your self-respect, and your happiness become the living manifestation of the universe's way of making things right. In this light, the hurt you endured transforms into your greatest teacher, the pain becomes a catalyst for strength, and the wisdom you gain becomes the ultimate return on the energy once taken from you. Healing is not just recovery, it is the highest form of karma, because it transforms your life in ways that no act of retribution ever could, allowing you to rise above the past and step fully into the life you deserve. Emotional damage done with awareness leaves lessons that return when avoidance no longer works. When someone deliberately causes harm, the impact is far more than just a fleeting moment of pain. It becomes embedded in your consciousness, shaping the way you see relationships, trust, and yourself. The awareness that their actions were intentional changes the way you process the experience. You cannot easily dismiss it, because deep down, you know they understood the effect they were having on you. This kind of pain is not accidental, and therefore it carries a weight that demands reflection, understanding, and ultimately transformation. It teaches you to pay attention to subtleties, to notice not only what is done, but why it is done. The lessons are not always obvious in the moment, but over time, they become the foundation for resilience, self-respect, and discernment. When someone hurts you knowingly, it creates a mirror. That mirror reflects not only their choices, but also your own boundaries, values, and emotional responses. It forces you to confront questions you might have otherwise avoided. Why did I allow this? Why did I tolerate this behavior? Why did I doubt myself? These questions are uncomfortable. Yet they are essential. They are the doorway to clarity. The moment you start seeking answers, you begin the process of reclaiming control over your own life. You realize that your past suffering was never meant to define you, but rather to teach you how to recognize what is unacceptable and to strengthen your ability to protect your emotional well-being. Lessons embedded in conscious harm are precise. They are designed to show you patterns so that when similar situations arise in the future, you can navigate them with wisdom rather than fear. Avoidance, in this context, is a natural defense. It is human to try to escape pain, to distract yourself from someone who has deliberately caused it. But avoidance can only protect you temporarily. If you never confront the truth, the lessons remain dormant, and the cycle risks repeating itself. The hurt will manifest again in subtle ways, often through relationships, emotional triggers, or recurring doubts. This is why intentional emotional damage leaves lessons that inevitably resurface when avoidance no longer works. Life has a way of bringing awareness to the forefront, compelling you to face what was ignored. It may appear as a confrontation, a pattern repeating, or a realization in solitude. Whatever form it takes, the purpose is consistent to awaken you to the truths that conscious harm has embedded. These lessons are not meant to punish, and they are not a reflection of weakness on your part. They are a pathway to empowerment. Every time you are forced to confront the impact of deliberate hurt, you are being offered an opportunity to redefine your boundaries, clarify your values, and strengthen your sense of self-worth. The universe does not let harmful actions go unnoticed. Even when those who caused pain appear unscathed, their choices ripple outward, affecting energy, relationships, and outcomes. Yet the greatest ripples are often within you. The discomfort you feel, the insights you gain, and the strength you cultivate are the karmic balance of their intent. The lessons are precise because they address the specific dynamics of your relationship with yourself and others, teaching you how to navigate future interactions with discernment and integrity. It is also important to recognize the subtlety of these lessons. They do not always arrive as dramatic awakenings. Often, they emerge slowly in moments of introspection, quiet reflection, or unexpected clarity. Perhaps it is a realization that someone's repeated actions were not your fault, or that the inconsistencies you tolerated were signs of misalignment rather than a reflection of your inadequacy. Perhaps it is a newfound ability to trust your intuition or to recognize red flags before they escalate. These lessons accumulate over time, building a foundation of resilience that becomes unshakable. When avoidance fails and the lessons surface, they are undeniable, and they carry with them a clarity that allows you to step into future relationships and interactions with confidence rather than hesitation. The awareness that someone hurt you intentionally also fosters empathy, but not for them in the way they might expect. It fosters empathy for yourself and for the human condition. You learn that people act from their limitations, fears, and unprocessed emotions, and while this does not excuse harm, it allows you to approach future challenges without being consumed by anger or resentment. You recognize patterns in behavior and can distinguish between temporary lapses, ignorance, or intentional disregard. This discernment is critical because it prevents history from repeating itself, ensuring that you no longer tolerate actions that compromise your emotional integrity. Ultimately, emotional damage inflicted with awareness teaches lessons that cannot be ignored indefinitely. When avoidance is no longer possible, these lessons emerge to guide you toward wisdom, self-protection, and personal growth. They reveal the dynamics of human behavior, clarify your own boundaries, and sharpen your understanding of trust and respect. The process may be painful, but it is transformative. The knowledge that someone knew exactly what they were doing, and that you survived, learned, and grew from it becomes a cornerstone of your strength. The hurt, once intended to diminish you, instead elevates you. It strengthens your ability to navigate life with intentionality, to honor yourself, and to embrace relationships and opportunities that align with your worth. Through this process, emotional harm ceases to be a mark of weakness and becomes a catalyst for empowerment, resilience, and enduring clarity. Walking away with clarity is more powerful than staying to prove your worth. Many of us have been in situations where we believed that persistence, explanation, or endless effort could convince someone of our value. We think that if we try hard enough, if we speak enough, if we sacrifice enough, the other person will finally see us, recognize our worth, and reciprocate the love, respect, or attention we long for. But in reality, this mindset often traps us in a cycle of exhaustion, frustration, and diminishing self-respect. Staying to prove your worth gives away your power because it ties your value to someone else's ability or willingness to acknowledge it. Walking away with clarity, on the other hand, is an act of empowerment. It is an acknowledgement that your worth is inherent, independent of anyone else's recognition, and that you will not compromise your integrity to earn validation. Clarity begins with understanding yourself and your own standards. It requires honesty about what you need, what you deserve, and what you will no longer tolerate. It is not a fleeting feeling or a momentary decision. It is a deliberate choice to prioritize your well-being and emotional health over the desire to be accepted or validated by someone who cannot or will not meet you fully. Walking away with clarity means recognizing that staying in a situation where your value is questioned, ignored, or diminished is not a test of endurance. It is a form of self-neglect. By choosing to step away, you honor yourself, and in doing so, you assert that your life, energy, and emotions are not available for misuse or manipulation. The act of walking away requires courage because it often goes against natural instincts. We are wired to seek connection, to resolve conflict, and to hope for reconciliation. It is human to want someone to understand our worth, to see the effort we have invested, and to recognize the love or dedication we have shown. But staying in such situations, hoping that someone else will finally validate you, often keeps you stuck in a cycle of repeated disappointment. True empowerment comes when you break that cycle. Walking away is not about giving up. It is about choosing yourself. It is a statement that your life does not depend on someone else's approval and that your energy is too valuable to spend on proving what cannot be questioned. Clarity also brings perspective. When you step back from someone who diminishes or undervalues you, you gain the ability to see the situation objectively. You notice patterns that you may have ignored while immersed in trying to prove your worth. You see the inconsistencies, the lack of effort, the disregard for your boundaries, and the imbalance in emotional investment. This perspective allows you to release any lingering attachment to justification or explanation. You understand that your efforts, words, or sacrifices do not define your value, nor do they obligate anyone to treat you with respect or care. Walking away with clarity gives you the mental and emotional space to recognize that what you offered freely and authentically was never wrong, but the reception of it is beyond your control. Another essential aspect of walking away with clarity is the restoration of dignity. Staying in a situation to prove your worth often leads to diminished self-esteem. You may compromise your values, tolerate behavior that undermines you, or question your judgment. By stepping away, you reclaim your dignity. You demonstrate to yourself, first and foremost, that your standards are non-negotiable, that your self-respect is sacred, and that you will not settle for less than what aligns with your truth. This act of self-affirmation is a form of personal power that cannot be taken away by anyone else. It is a declaration that your life, choices, and emotional boundaries are in your hands, and that you will not surrender them to someone incapable of valuing them. Walking away with clarity also opens the door for growth and opportunity. When you remove yourself from relationships, situations, or environments that require you to constantly prove your worth, you create space for experiences and people that align with your energy and values. You free yourself from the exhaustion of trying to convince someone of your importance and redirect that energy toward personal development, meaningful connections, and authentic fulfillment. The clarity gained in this process allows you to identify what you truly desire, what relationships nurture your growth, and what environments support your potential. It is in this space that true happiness and satisfaction can flourish because your life is no longer dictated by the need for external validation. Finally, walking away with clarity is an act of ultimate empowerment because it transforms pain into strength. It turns the frustration of being unrecognized into a lesson in self-worth. It converts the disappointment of being undervalued into motivation to seek alignment with people and situations that honor you. It teaches resilience, discernment, and the unshakable truth that your value is intrinsic and cannot be diminished by anyone else's actions or opinions. When you choose clarity over conflict, self-respect over validation, and integrity over compromise, you step into a version of yourself that is grounded, empowered, and free. In essence, staying to prove your worth is a form of giving away your power, while walking away with clarity is a declaration of sovereignty over your own life. It is a recognition that your energy, emotions, and presence are sacred, and that they deserve reciprocity, respect, and care. Clarity allows you to move forward without resentment, to release attachment to approval, and to embrace the freedom of knowing that your value is inherent and undeniable. Walking away is not a retreat, it is an advance toward a life where you are fully seen, fully respected, and fully aligned with the people and experiences that honor the incredible person you are. The pain they caused becomes the reason you set stronger boundaries and choose better connections. When someone deliberately inflicts emotional harm, it is easy to get lost in the hurt, to replay the moments, and to internalize the blame. But over time, that very pain, as difficult and raw as it feels, becomes a guide. It teaches you where to draw lines, where to protect your heart, and where to invest your energy more wisely. Every betrayal, every act of disregard, every moment of intentional disregard becomes a reference point, helping you understand what is acceptable and what is not. This is how pain transforms from a source of suffering into a tool for empowerment. Understanding the lessons embedded in hurt begins with awareness. You must consciously recognize the patterns of behavior that caused the pain and reflect on how you responded to them. This requires honesty and courage because it forces you to confront not only the actions of others, but also your own role in tolerating or enabling them. Reflection does not mean blaming yourself. It means observing reality clearly, acknowledging the dynamics at play, and extracting the wisdom that will prevent similar experiences in the future. The clarity gained from this reflection equips you to establish boundaries that are firm, non-negotiable, and aligned with your self-respect. Boundaries are not just rules for others. They are a declaration to yourself of what you will no longer accept. They are the manifestation of your self-worth, a statement that your time, energy, and emotions are valuable. When someone knowingly hurts you, the lessons embedded in that experience show you where your boundaries were weak, unclear, or unenforced. They highlight the moments where you may have tolerated behavior that diminished your dignity or compromised your well-being. By learning from these experiences, you gain the ability to enforce boundaries with confidence, clarity, and without guilt. Boundaries become a shield, not a punishment, protecting you from repeated harm and attracting healthier, more aligned connections. The pain also teaches discernment in relationships. Over time, you develop a heightened awareness of people's intentions and behaviors. You become attuned to subtleties that once went unnoticed. You notice inconsistencies between words and actions, patterns of neglect or manipulation, and signs that someone may not have your best interests at heart. This discernment is invaluable because it allows you to choose connections that are nurturing, reciprocal, and aligned with your values. The people you allow into your inner circle reflect the wisdom gained from past hurt. You no longer invest in relationships out of fear, loneliness, or obligation, but out of choice, intention, and clarity. Moreover, the pain you experience shapes your emotional intelligence. When you have been hurt consciously, you learn to process complex feelings, to recognize unhealthy dynamics, and to manage your responses without being controlled by fear, anger, or insecurity. Emotional intelligence is the ability to navigate relationships with awareness, empathy, and discernment. It is cultivated through experience, reflection, and conscious choice. The lessons embedded in hurt refine this intelligence, allowing you to engage with others in a way that is both compassionate and protective, ensuring that you neither tolerate harm nor replicate patterns that once caused suffering. Healing from intentional hurt also instills resilience. Each time you face the memory, the betrayal, or the disregard, and choose to rise above it, you build strength. You learn that your sense of self cannot be broken by someone else's choices. The resilience gained from navigating intentional pain empowers you to face future challenges with courage, confidence, and clarity. You understand that hurt is inevitable in life, but suffering is optional, and that your response determines your growth and trajectory. This resilience becomes the foundation for healthier connections because you enter relationships as a whole, confident individual rather than a person seeking validation, acceptance, or rescue. Finally, the ultimate gift of learning from pain is alignment. When you extract the lessons from hurt, you are better able to attract and sustain relationships that honor your value and respect your boundaries. You stop investing in people who drain, manipulate, or disregard you, and you begin to invest in people who reflect the care, empathy, and integrity you embody. The pain becomes a compass guiding you toward authenticity and away from toxicity. Every act of intentional harm you endured becomes a lesson in self-respect, a reminder of the strength you possess, and a beacon showing you the kind of connections you deserve. The transformation of pain into wisdom, boundaries, discernment, and resilience is the true return on suffering. The hurt you experienced does not define you, but it shapes the empowered, aware, and self-respecting person you become. By allowing the lessons to guide your choices, you step into a life where relationships are conscious, reciprocal, and nurturing. The pain, once a source of confusion and despair, becomes the reason you no longer settle for anything less than alignment, integrity, and respect. It becomes the very foundation upon which you build a life rich in authentic connection, emotional safety, and unwavering self-worth. In essence, every wound left by deliberate harm carries within it the potential for growth. It teaches you where to set boundaries, how to discern genuine intentions, and how to cultivate resilience. It empowers you to prioritize connections that honor your value and align with your emotional truth. The pain becomes not a chain that binds you to suffering, but a catalyst that propels you into clarity, strength, and a life filled with meaningful, respectful, and nurturing relationships. By learning from hurt, you ensure that your past does not limit your future, but instead informs and elevates it, creating a path defined by self-respect, empowerment, and conscious choice. Karma never forgets intention, and self-respect is the moment it begins to unfold. Often, when we experience hurt or betrayal, our attention is immediately drawn to the actions of the person who caused it. We wonder why they behaved the way they did, why they were careless, cruel, or dismissive, and we long for some form of justice or recompense. Yet, true balance is rarely about punishment or external consequences. True balance begins within us, in the space where self-respect takes root. When we honor ourselves, when we refuse to compromise our boundaries or diminish our worth to appease someone else, the ripple effects of karma start to reveal themselves in profound and undeniable ways. Understanding this begins with recognizing the power of intention. When someone acts with conscious disregard for your feelings, their intention carries weight, even if the immediate outcome seems inconsequential. Karma, in its purest form, does not need to intervene actively. It simply ensures that energy returns in alignment with the intention behind it. The same principle applies to your own energy and intention. When you choose self-respect, when you honor your needs, values, and emotional integrity, you send a clear signal to the universe. You will not tolerate behavior that undermines your worth. This declaration, quiet yet powerful, sets the stage for karma to work through your life in ways that are both subtle and transformative. Self-respect is not an abstract concept. It is a series of choices made moment by moment. It is the decision to walk away from situations, people, or patterns that compromise your dignity. It is the decision to speak your truth, even when it is uncomfortable, and to demand the same honesty from others. It is the refusal to excuse behavior that is harmful or manipulative, even if doing so would maintain comfort or familiarity. Every act of self-respect reinforces your value and integrity. It signals to the universe and to those around you that you are aligned with your own standards, that your emotional energy is sacred, and that you will not settle for anything less than what nourishes